The ocean doesn't hide bodies. It hides reasons. The signal beneath the waves. The signal began quietly. So quietly that no one noticed it for years. It pulsed from beneath the ocean floor. Far below where pressure crushes steel. Far below where sound should survive. Yet every night at exactly 02:17 a.m. it appeared. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Again and again. Dr. Elias Rowe, a marine acoustics specialist, first dismissed it as equipment error, then as interference, then as coincidence, until it followed him. No matter where he placed the sensors, the pattern returned. Always the same rhythm. Always from open ocean where charts showed nothing but depth. No name, no trench, no reason. Elias had studied whales for 20 years. He knew sound. This wasn't communication. It was memory repeating itself. When he boarded the research vessel Calypso Dawn, the crew went silent as soon as he shared the coordinates. One sailor crossed himself. Another whispered, "That water isn't empty." At night the sea turned unnaturally calm, not peaceful, watching. At 02:16 the sonar screen flickered. At 02:17 the signal returned, louder than ever. Then something new appeared. Movement, not upward, not downward, circling. Elias leaned closer to the monitor. The shapes had no clear edges, no biological signature, just mass, waiting. Then the speakers crackled. A sound came through, distorted, wet, human, breathing. The captain slammed his fist on the console. "That's not possible." The breathing stopped. A voice replaced it, slow, heavy, layered, as if spoken by many throats at once. "You learned how to listen?" Too late. The ocean shifted beneath the ship. Not waves, pressure. Elias felt it then, a sensation like being recognized. He whispered, "Who are you?" The reply came immediately. "What you threw away." The sonar screen filled completely, not with shapes, with depth, numbers rolling downward endlessly. The ocean was showing how far it went, and how much it held. Somewhere far below, something old adjusted its attention. Not rising, not attacking. Remembering. The ship's lights flickered. The signal continued. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Like a heartbeat. Like a knock. From the inside. The ship that never sank. The Calypso Dawn should have turned back. Every protocol said so. Instead, it stayed. At dawn, the ocean looked normal again. Blue, moving, harmless. That made it worse. Elias reviewed old maritime records while the crew pretended not to watch him. He found the name Aurelian, a cargo ship reported lost in 1936. No storm, no wreckage, no survivors. Official cause, structural failure. Unofficial note scribbled in the margin of a declassified file. Ship refused to sink. Elias felt cold. That afternoon, the signal changed. It slowed, as if adjusting to their presence. The captain ordered nets lowered, not to catch anything, but to measure resistance. The nets came back intact, but heavier. Too heavy. When they cut one open, salt water poured out, followed by something else. A metal nameplate, corroded but readable. Aurelian. The crew panicked. That night the ocean grew restless. Not rough, unsettled. At 02:17 the signal returned, closer. Then lights appeared beneath the surface. Not reflections, windows, rows of them. A ship passed slowly under the Calypso Dawn, upright, intact, lights on. No bubbles, no movement. Just drifting. Elias whispered, "It never sank." The speakers crackled again. We kept floating. The ship below rotated slightly, revealing its deck. Figures stood there, not waving, watching. The captain screamed for engines. The Calypso Dawn lurched forward, but the ocean resisted. Like thick gel, the lights below brightened. Then the voice spoke once more. You learned how to build ships, but not how to let them go. The Aurelian slowly descended again, lights fading into black. The water returned to normal. Engines roared freely. No damage, no evidence. Except one thing. On the deck of the Calypso Dawn, wet footprints appeared, leading nowhere. Elias stared at them. They were barefoot, child-sized. The signal stopped, for the first time in decades, and that frightened him more than anything else. Voices in the deep. The silence lasted 3 days. No signal, no movement, no explanation. The crew of the Calypso Dawn slept in shifts, afraid the ocean might speak again when no one was listening. Ilias replayed old recordings, where there should have been static. There were gaps, spaces shaped like missing words. On the 4th night, the ocean spoke again. Not through sonar, through the hull. A low vibration ran through the ship, like a throat clearing beneath steel. Then came voices. Not loud, intimate, close enough to feel breath. Different languages, different ages, different eras, all saying the same thing. We are still here. The captain ordered full lights. The water around the ship lit up, revealing shapes moving just below the surface. They were not swimming. They were standing, as if the ocean floor had risen to meet them. Elias leaned over the railing. A face looked up at him, pale, calm, eyes open. No struggle marks, no fear, just waiting. He stumbled back. Why can we hear them now? The captain asked. Elias answered honestly. Because we stopped pretending we couldn't. The voices grew clearer. Names emerged. Real names. Dates. Places. Each voice carried a story. Someone lost, discarded, erased. The ocean wasn't haunting them. It was testifying. Suddenly the voices synchronized. One message, one breath. Tell them. The ship's recorder overloaded. Screens went dark. In the silence, the ocean rose, not as waves, but as presence. Something vast shifted below. Aware, Elias felt it recognize him. The voices faded. The signal returned. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Not a call anymore. A reminder. The floating children. The first child appeared at dawn. He floated face up beside the ship, unmoving, as gentle waves lifted him like a cradle. No wounds, no swelling, no decay, as if the ocean had just placed him there. The crew froze. Elias was the only one who stepped closer. The child's eyes were open, not empty, aware. Then another appeared, and another. Children of different ages, different clothes, different decades, floating in a loose circle around the Calypso Dawn. None were touching. None were drifting away. They were positioned. The captain whispered, "Why children?" The ocean answered before Elias could. They were easiest to forget. The water beneath the children darkened, forming a shape, not solid, not liquid. A shadow large enough to make the ship feel small. The children's mouths moved in unison. We were told it would be quick. Elias felt his chest break. Records surfaced in his mind. Orphan transports, refugee ships, lost at sea footnotes. The ocean wasn't showing victims. It was showing evidence. One child slowly turned his head toward Elias. "Are we heavy?" he asked. Elias shook his head, tears falling into the sea. "No," he whispered. "You were carried." The shadow below receded. The children gently sank, not drowning, not falling, returning. The water closed over them without a ripple. The signal stopped again, but this time it felt deliberate. like the ocean had finished one sentence and was preparing the next. The Black Trench. The coordinates changed overnight. No one typed them in. They appeared on every screen at once. A depth reading blinked beside them, then glitched. Numbers rolled past what instruments were built to measure. The trench had no name, because it was never meant to be reached. The captain wanted to turn back. The ocean answered by going still, perfectly still. Elias understood then. This was not an invitation. It was permission. They lowered the submersible just before dusk. As it descended, light vanished layer by layer, blue to black to something darker than black. Not absence, presence. The pressure gauge screamed and froze. Depth stopped being measured. Inside the trench, sound returned. Not echoes, movement. The ocean floor opened into a vast scar. Walls smooth, curved inward, like something had pressed its thumb into the planet. And at the bottom, objects, ships, barrels, chains, crates stamped with erased symbols, all stacked carefully, organized. Elias whispered, "It's a storage place." The trench responded, "We kept what you didn't want to see." Lights revealed something worse. Bodies, not scattered, arranged, seated, standing, holding hands, preserved by pressure and cold, faces calm, eyes closed, not drowned, placed. A massive shadow passed behind them, too large for scale. The cameras shook. The trench spoke again, slower now. "This is where forgetting becomes permanent." The sub's lights flickered. On the wall of the trench, words were etched, not carved, not written, compressed. Names, thousands. Elias saw dates beside them. Some were recent, too recent. The signal pulsed once, not the old rhythm. A warning. The captain's voice cracked over comms. "Elias." Something just moved above the ship. The trench darkened. The shadow rose. And the ocean decided it had shown enough. The sub shot upward, not pulled, not pushed. Released. As they surfaced, every system went dead at once. Silence swallowed the ship. Then the ocean breathed. Names written in salt. Power returned slowly, not all at once, like the ocean deciding what they were allowed to keep. The Calypso Dawn drifted without direction. No current touched it. No wind pushed it. The sea had gone neutral. Elias stood alone on deck at night, staring into water so dark it looked solid. Then he noticed it. Salt. The railings were coated with fresh salt crystals, thick, sharp, unnatural. He brushed one away. Underneath it was a word, a name, not etched. Grown. Salt formed letters the way frost forms patterns. Everywhere Elias looked, names appeared. On the deck, on the walls, on the windows. Thousands of them. Each crystal different, some old and eroded, some sharp and new. The ocean was writing. The crew panicked. They tried washing the salt away. The water only revealed more names beneath. One sailor screamed. His own name had appeared on his boots. He quit the ship before sunrise. So did two others. They left in a lifeboat, engines screaming. The ocean did not stop them. Elias felt something worse than fear. Responsibility. At 2:17 the signal returned, faint, exhausted. This time Elias answered. He spoke into the recorder, voice shaking. "I see the names." The water rippled gently. The voice came back, quieter than before. "Then help us stay." Elias realized the truth. The ocean was losing memory. Salt dissolved. Currents shifted. Time erased details. It needed witnesses, carriers. On the deck, one name began to glow faintly. Not Elias's, a child's. Recently written. Elias knelt and pressed his hand against it. The salt burned his skin. Images flooded him. A small boat, Overcrowded. Night, orders shouted. Silence afterward. Elias screamed. The ocean pulled away slightly. Not apologetic, but careful. Remembering hurts, it said. For us, too. By morning, the salt had stopped growing. The ship could move again. But the names remained. Permanent. Elias knew now. This wasn't a haunting. It was a transfer. The ocean was teaching him how to carry what it could no longer hold alone. Far beneath the ship, something vast shifted, not angry. Relieved. The diver who came back wrong. The diver volunteered. No one asked him to. His name was Mark Ionescu, young, quiet, the kind of man who believed the ocean could still be understood. If you went deep enough. Elias tried to stop him. We've already listened too much, Elias said. Mark smiled. Then I'll just look. They lowered him just before dawn. The water closed over his helmet without resistance. At first everything was normal. Breathing steady. Heart rate stable. Depth increasing. Then the cameras picked up movement. Not fish. Faces. Pressing gently against the glass. Not panicking. Curious. Mark's breathing slowed. Do you see them? Elias asked. Yes, Mark replied calmly. They're waiting. The depth gauge froze. The rope went slack. For 6 minutes, Mark said nothing. Then he spoke again. They remember my mother. Elias felt cold. Mark's mother had died years ago, lost at sea in a ferry accident. Mark, ascend, now. No, Mark said softly. She's here. The water around the helmet darkened. The signal pulsed once. Not a call. A warning. Then the rope went taut. Mark rose fast. Too fast. When they pulled him aboard, his suit was intact. No damage, no pressure trauma. But Mark was wrong. His eyes stayed open, unblinking. When Elias asked him his name, Mark answered with a different one. A woman's. When asked what he saw, he smiled faintly. I saw where you put them. The ocean stirred. Mark reached down and scooped seawater into his bare hands. It ran through his fingers except for one drop. It stayed, floating. Inside it were tiny shapes. Moving, Mark whispered. The ocean doesn't want bodies anymore. Then he lay down on the deck and slept. For 12 hours. When he woke, the signal had changed. It now matched his breathing. When the ocean went silent, the silence was complete. No waves, no wind, no signal. Even the ship's engine sounded wrong. Too loud, like shouting in a grave. Elias checked the instruments again and again. Everything worked. The ocean had simply stopped responding. Mark sat on the deck, calm, breathing in rhythm with nothing. His chest rose and fell steadily. Too steadily. Elias asked, Can you hear it? Mark shook his head. It's listening now. The words sent a chill through the crew. That night, not a single animal surfaced. No birds, no fish, no plankton glow. The ocean had gone empty. At 2:17, nothing happened. For the first time in decades, the time passed without a pulse. Elias felt panic rise. What if it's gone? The captain whispered. Mark looked up at the stars. It's deciding, he said. Suddenly, the water around the ship darkened. Not from depth, but from absence of reflection. The stars above no longer mirrored below. The boundary between sky and sea blurred. Then came pressure, not physical, emotional. Memories pressed into Elias's chest that weren't his. A woman pushed overboard at night. A child crying into salt water. A man tied to chains that sank without sound. Elias dropped to his knees. The ocean wasn't silent. It was transferring everything at once. Mark screamed, the first sound he'd made all day. His voice layered with others. If you don't carry it, it will vanish. The sea surface trembled. Then slowly sound returned. A single pulse, not the old rhythm, just one. A heartbeat. The ocean had chosen. It would no longer speak to machines, only to people. Elias understood the cost. This was the last warning. Next time it wouldn't ask. What was thrown away? The ocean led them without moving. The coordinates appeared one last time, not blinking, not forcing. Waiting. Elias knew this place. Every sailor did. A dumping ground disguised as open water. No storms, no reefs, no reason for ships to slow down, which made it perfect. As the Calypso dawn approached, the water changed texture, thicker, darker, layered. The surface reflected nothing. Mark stood at the bow. This is where it started, he said, and where it ended for many. They lowered cameras. The feed filled with objects long denied by records. Suitcases still locked. Chains rusted but intact. Medical crates stamped destroy after use. Metal doors torn from cells. Then the bodies. Not decomposed. Not floating. Suspended. Held by the water itself. Men in uniforms without insignia. Women with wrists bound. Children wrapped in blankets weighted with stones. Elias whispered, "They weren't lost." The ocean replied, but not angrily. They were removed. Images pushed into Elias's mind. Night voyages, orders given quietly, paperwork signed afterward, silence rewarded. This was not one country, not one war. This was a method. Mark collapsed to his knees. "I remember this," he said. Elias turned. "You weren't alive." Mark shook his head slowly. "Not like this." Mark touched the water. It rose slightly, responding to him. "I remember because the ocean remembers through me." The cameras flickered. One last object appeared on screen. A steel container. Sealed. Stamped with a date from just 3 years ago. Recent. Too recent. Elias felt sick. "This never stopped," he said. The ocean answered softly. Why would it? Above them the sky darkened. The sea began to move, not violently. Purposefully. The forgotten were not asking anymore. They were being returned. The ocean keeps its own. The ocean rose. Not as a wave, as a decision. Water lifted around the Calypso dawn, forming a ring. Smooth. Controlled, impossibly calm. The ship did not rock. It was being held. Elias felt it then. Not fear, not panic. Relief. The ocean had finished asking. Mark stepped forward, barefoot on the wet deck. "I know what you want," Elias said. Mark nodded. "Not want," he replied softly. "Need." The water parted near the bow. Below, the depth opened. Not dark, not violent. Inviting. Elias looked at the recorder in his hand. Years of evidence. Voices. Names. Truths no archive wanted. "If I leave," Elias said, "they'll erase it." Mark smiled sadly. "They already will." The ocean spoke one final time. Not through speakers, not through pressure. Through memory. "We kept them when you wouldn't. Now keep us." Elias understood. Witnesses age. Records burn. Stories get edited. But the ocean remains. Mark stepped forward first. The water accepted him without splash. No bubbles. No struggle. Just descent. Elias followed. Cold wrapped around him. Not suffocating. Not crushing. Holding. As the Calypso dawn drifted free, the water closed. The ship would return empty. Logs incomplete. Crew shaken. Evidence dismissed. But far below, the ocean adjusted. Not heavier, not lighter. Balanced. Years later, sailors reported a new signal. Not mechanical. Not constant. A heartbeat, slow and steady. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. When divers listened too long, they heard something else beneath it. A voice, calm, familiar. "We are still here." The ocean did not need to speak again. It had kept its own. And now, it was no longer forgotten. The end.